Welcome to Connections, a podcast from the Graymere Church of Christ in Columbia, Tennessee. Our goal is to have discussions and messages that encourage us and strengthen our faith. We appreciate you joining us. Let's keep learning and growing together. Thank you for joining us in Connections. We're really grateful that you've taken the time to be part of what we hope is an encouraging conversation. This podcast is just designed to share conversations with people that'll be spiritually uplifting and maybe thought-provoking, cause us to think, and hopefully help us to grow. And I'm really excited. We've got Chris Doughtie with us, and I'll let him introduce himself in just a moment. He works with the Tennessee Children's Home, which is located in Spring Hill, although there are locations across Tennessee, and we'll let him talk more about that. It's been a privilege to get to know Chris over the years and work with the Children's Home, and he has been instrumental in organizing their chapel, weekly chapel, and inviting ministers in the area to come be part of that. And so I'm excited that he's taken the time to be with us to share a little bit about what's happening at the Children's Home and what we can do as Christians to pray for and to support the work there. So I guess I'll get started and just let you sort of introduce yourself and tell us how long you've been working with the Children's Home.
Sure. Well, I want to say thanks for the invite to be here today.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the opportunity to share something that I'm really passionate about. So thanks for the opportunity for that. But as you mentioned, I'm Chris Doughtie. I'm the Director of Development and Community Education is the long term for my title. And this would be certainly something that falls under community education, getting the word out about what we do. So excited about doing that. But ultimately, I'm married to Mindy, beautiful wife, and we have two kids, Hannah and Justice. And we started at the Children's Home in 2012, and we were house parents. We served as house parents for 5 years, and I moved into this role about 8 years ago, where I get to go around and talk to churches and talk to individuals and put on events and things that raise support and awareness for what we do.
Absolutely. And for someone who might not know about just the history in Spring Hill of the Children's Home, just share with us a little bit about the mission there, and then, of course, you've had some changes as far as location and other places.
Sure.
But just tell us.
Yeah, we've probably not too far from where we're sitting right now in Columbia was where the Children's Home started. It actually started as Tennessee Orphans Home in Columbia, Tennessee. Operated there from 1909 to the 1930s. They moved to a location in Spring Hill in the 30s and operated at that location up until 2021. And so we've gone through a lot over the last few years with regards to development of buildings and programs and different things like that. So it's been a hectic 5 years, but a really good and productive one for sure. So the history runs from the 30s until the 2021, where we took care of kids in all kinds of facets of life, kids who have been abused, neglected, abandoned in a lot of ways. And that's ultimately what we strive to serve, is just kids who have not had that God-given upbringing that talks about in the scriptures of how a family unit is supposed to look. A lot of those kids come from those situations, and we just want to be for them in a time in their life that's so impactful and just make a difference for them.
Yeah. Now, how many, at least at the campus in Spring Hill, how many kids will you have there throughout at any given time?
Yeah, so in Spring Hill, we serve 32 on campus. Okay. And that's, of course, we put them in a home situation. So we put them with a set of house parents in a home that models after what a home would look like. And then we have two other campuses that do the same thing throughout Tennessee. So Spring Hill, and then we have Knoxville, serving about 16 in that same manner. And then Henderson, which is about 5 miles away from Freed-Hardeman University, serving about 24 kids in that home life. And we do 13 to 18-year-old boys. So we've kind of stuck to the boy. Right now, we feel like that's our niche right now, where we feel like we can make a bigger impact. We feel like a lot of times the breakdown of the family comes from the male being absent in the home. And so we feel like if we can get to those males and maybe break that cycle, that's kind of where we've landed.
And as far as those who are working every day, I know you've got a great group of people, but you've got teachers that are making sure during the school year that they're getting that kind of education.
Yeah.
What are some of the other things that you provide?
Sure. I mean, so you can imagine kids coming from the situations that they may have come from, just not having stability, not knowing where their next meal may come from, or not knowing where they may lay their head the next night. Kids who have moved foster homes so many times because they just can't find stability anywhere, or they go back and forth to their home life to a foster home or institutionalized in some way. And so if you can imagine having that instability, what we want to do is just put them in a stable environment and one that can provide all their needs, from physical everyday needs, food, water, clothes, a place to lay your head at night, all the way through educational needs. So we have on-campus schools. They go to school on campus with us. But then ultimately we want to provide for those spiritual needs as well. And so we have an emphasis there where we hire Christian house parents, and they get to go to church with those house parents. We have first part of our school day every day is going to be Bible centered. You mentioned the chapel devotionals that we do every Monday morning when they're in school. We invite ministers and we do some singing and things with the kids. And then Tuesday through Friday, there's going to be a Bible class of some sort first thing every morning. So want to meet all those needs, but we wouldn't want to do it if we couldn't provide for those spiritual needs as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you mentioned moving to a new location, which is really, it's an impressive campus. How long have you been in the new location? And maybe you could just talk a little bit about the facilities that you have.
Yeah. We were pretty blessed in 2021 to be able to move. As we mentioned, we moved to Spring Hill in 1935-ish. Built some buildings in the 50s, and so we were serving in these old buildings that were kind of designed more for a true orphanage, where maybe you could have 30, 40 kids in a house. Obviously, the regulations these days don't allow for that. And so we had been able to make do with what we have, and so we'd renovate and we'd make do with what we had, but we needed to make a change. We needed to do something to update how we were serving these kids. And so we decided that we either needed to sell the property there in Spring Hill or tear down buildings and build new ones. Well, opportunity arose for us to sell the property, and so we did, and we moved and built a new property. So we were able to design a new campus specifically for what we do today.
Yes, yeah.
And so we're pretty thankful for that, able to combine a bunch of buildings, get everything in one place, houses designed better for these house parents to serve. So it's really been a blessing to be able to get to this new opportunity in Spring Hill. And we've done some work on some other campuses too. The Knoxville campus 10 years ago built some houses to serve more kids so we can increase our capacity. And we've had to do some renovations on some houses in West Tennessee to make sure that we can serve kids in the appropriate way.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. Well, even as I think about that, one of the connection that maybe some of our listeners would have to the former children's home location was, of course, church league basketball.
Yep.
The church league basketball games. I did, I was looking for in the new gym if there were any like church league championship banners up there. I'm sure you guys will get to that. I'm just joking, but it was really neat to see people come together, and a lot of times you'd have the boys come and watch the games, and I've just really enjoyed seeing how you and all those who work there have really invested so much, even in the lives of, I don't know what the average stay would be for some of the boys that are there, but some may be shorter than others, I guess. I don't know how long that usually is.
I think Graymere may have won a championship or two.
Yeah,
maybe they're deserving of a banner.
Well, no.
So,
I'm just kidding.
No,
I might show up with one and try to put it up.
There's a lot to unpack there, but interestingly enough, the basketball league might actually be why I'm at Tennessee Children's Home today. So I actually played basketball just pickup wise at the gym with some church friends on a weeknight. And through that, we decided that we wanted to start a league. And so we started the league and started playing on the Children's Home campus. And my church, I was at Southern Hills Church of Christ at the time, and they would always post when there was job openings and things, and they would post a house parent, and I would always look at it and just think to myself, I feel like that's something I could do, but I'd never do anything about it. And so that happened over a course of maybe a year or two, and the league had started at this point, and another posting went up for house parents, and I said something to somebody, not thinking anything of it. Well, it got back to the campus director that a guy named Chris at Southern Hills was interested in.
Yeah.
So I'm at the church league one night, probably just finishing up my game, and the campus director walks in and he says, "I hear you were interested in the house parent position." And at this point, I'm like, I guess so. I guess I am.
Wow.
And so we started the conversation there about what that might look like for our family and how that would look. And so our family started praying about it, and we ultimately decided to become house parents almost through the basketball league.
I had no idea. That's interesting.
So, and we've gained some support through that too, just people coming on campus just to seeing what it is.
Absolutely.
Is a really cool opportunity. So yeah. And then as far as, just investing in these kids, we just want them to have what seems to be a normal life while we can, right?
Yeah.
They've had such chaos and drama and toxic relationships in their life. And so when we can put them in a situation where all they do is just know what it's like to live as a part of a family, a Christian family, of course, we're going to have times where there's going to be struggles, and we're going to get through those together. And we figure out how to work through those issues with them in a biblical way. A lot of times scripture comes up when we're dealing with issues.
Sure.
And so it's just a really big blessing to be able to put them in a place just for a time being in their life where they can count on, what, I know that I'm safe. I know that I'm not going to have any major issues while I'm here. And they're going to help me get through it. And so that basketball league is just one of the things they get to come up and watch a little basketball, just something a little different, and just what a normal family might do on a Tuesday night, go watch the family play basketball, And so it's a lot of different ways in which we try to just give them something normal.
Well, that's definitely one thing I've noticed whenever I've been able to be on campus and be around, is that you can see the relationships with teachers and staff members where they know these kids and they have a rapport with them. And that's just always been impressive to me. You can tell people are putting in that effort. And as we think about that, I would imagine your experiences both as a house parent and in the position you are now, there's probably a lot that you've kind of learned, obviously, about not just this specific ministry, but also about just ministry in general. Like, what are some of the lessons that you kind of feel like you've been taught in your time working with them?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting when you said that that's what you wanted to kind of talk about, some things I've learned, and then the show that we're on, I believe you call it Connections.
Mm-hmm.
And so ultimately that's what I've probably taken away the most out of what we do is you can't beat a connection with somebody when you're trying to teach them the gospel, first of all, but just when you're trying to be a mentor to somebody. I don't know who said it, but I believe it, and I wish I could give them credit for it, but somebody once said the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, but the opposite of addiction is connection. That typically people won't fall into an addiction if they have a connection with somebody. And if you think about, the situations where kids grow up without the proper upbringing, where family was not in their lives a long time, and they're missing that connection, what do they fall onto? It's a lot of times it's some kind of an addiction. It might be an addiction to eating. It might be an addiction to drugs and alcohol. It could be just, they get addicted to all kinds of things. Whereas if you just had some kind of connection with somebody, that might have changed. And so when I think about us and what we're trying to do to these kids, they come in broken. They come in sometimes with only what's on their back. They don't have any other clothes. They don't have any other items that belong to their name. And you get to say, you know what? Here's some clothes for you. Here's all that you need. You need some shoes. Here's some shoes. You haven't eaten today? Okay, well, here's some food. You start providing for these basic needs, and then you start building the connection. Once you have that connection in place where they trust you that you're going to take care of the things that you need, because they've come from situations where maybe somebody gave them a meal, but it came with some kind of you have to do something for me if I'm going to do something for you. And we want to make sure that they realize we're doing this. We're going to serve you no matter what you're going through at this time in your life. We're here, and we're going to be able to help you through it. But you got to build that connection with them. And so we start meeting those needs and start getting in touch with them in that way. And that's when you can start building the connection. And that's when the relationship starts to build. And once you build that relationship, then they start to trust. And then they can ask questions. And when they start asking questions about the Bible, they start to trust you even more and say, okay, I've had people talk to me about the Bible before, but it was not like this. It's a little bit different. Something seems different. And so that connection really does make an impact.
Yeah. And what are some, just as you mentioned that, I would imagine there's some barriers or some obstacles, especially if when a young man first arrives there, to kind of building those connections. Is there anything specific you've learned about, okay, here's what to remember when you're trying to make that connection?
Everybody's different, obviously. Every kid can be different. I tell this story about when we were a house parent. We had a young man who got to us, and he decided he wasn't going to come in the house. He was like, I'm not supposed to be here. I have people that are going to come get me, and so he said he wasn't going to come in the house. Well, he stayed out of the house for a while, and we just kept an eye on him, and he didn't know what to do. Well, he finally came in the house. He was hungry. We were sitting down as a family, as we always do. He eats, and he's just watching everybody do what they're doing. And one of the boys says, "Can I be excused?" And he goes and puts his plate in the dishwasher, and he's just watching. So finally, first words he says, "Can I be excused?" So he's watching what the other kids are doing.
Mm-hmm.
But what really turned this kid around was the same evening. He didn't want to go hang out with the other kids. It was after dinner time and after chores, and the kids were playing the video game or watching TV, and it was about bedtime, and he's just sitting there not saying anything. And my son at the time was probably 6 years old, and he just walked up to him with a deck of cards and says, "You want to play war?" Smile immediately comes on his face. Sure, you can't tell a 6-year-old no to war. And so he starts playing war, and all of a sudden he's smiling and laughing with this 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And so in his case, it was just being a part of the family.
Yeah.
The family was there. My son was able to just offer up just a connection, if you will. Hey, we can play some cards if you're feeling down. Get your mind off of whatever you're going through. And that was the start of a little bit of a relationship building with him.
Yeah.
And so it's different, for him. And sometimes it's meeting needs, like I mentioned. Some of these kids come in and they've had to hoard their food because they didn't know where their next meal would come from. So when they got a meal, they'd eat part of it and they'd hoard it the rest of the time. And so sometimes it's through that, just through making sure that they know that their needs are going to be taken care of. You don't have to hoard your food here. You might catch them taking some chips in their pocket, and you're like, you don't have to do that. If you're hungry, come ask me. We'll make sure you have what you need. And so it all depends on the situation and what they've been through. I say it like this: every situation is different, and kids have been through different. But ultimately, it's just boils down to this: toxic relationships that they've been so used to, where people can't be trusted to provide the things that a child needs. If you can imagine, I just can't imagine a child who's most vulnerable in this world not being provided for like they should be.
Yeah.
And so they've been through so much. And so just providing for their needs ultimately is what, and then sometimes that's emotional and spiritual and physical, all the above.
Well, and I know you mentioned the different amounts of students here and in Knoxville and in West Tennessee. So total, if you put all three of those together, I mean, is that like 70 or 80 students?
It's 72 capacity on site. So we also offer some other services when the kids leave us, and let's say they do get to go back home. Let's say home has become an opportunity for them to get back to. We have the ability to keep them in our care where they're at home, but we're still following up with them. And so we can keep on doing some counseling. We can keep on checking in on the family, making sure the family's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so we can serve a little bit more than that outside of the on-campus capacity. And then I want to touch on another program that we have in Clarksville, Tennessee.
Okay.
And that's some apartment units we own there where we do displaced families. So this is typically families who are coming from abusive situations, like a mother with 2 or 3 kids. She's needing some place to be for the time being. So it's a transition place for them. And then we also do independent living in that situation. So these are kids who age out of foster care at 18 with nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And so we offer that program there where they can come in as long as they're in school or have a job. They can take advantage of the services there, and they get to live in the apartment for free as long as they're doing those things. And it's a great opportunity for them to kind of get on their feet and learn some. I remember 18 was probably my most formidable years because that's when I actually finally had to go out and do things on my own. I go to college and I don't have mom and dad there to bail me out. I've got to make decisions on my own. It's a great opportunity for these 18-year-olds who, just need a place for the time being, and let's figure out this life thing right now.
Obviously that would be such a crucial point, especially if you felt like you'd been able to make a connection and do a lot of work with them, and then they get to that 18. Yeah. And I would imagine that's just a critical time. If you don't have a place to go and get us started in one direction, it could be really easy to...
I would imagine most 18-year-olds who age out of foster care with nowhere to go end up in some kind of trouble because they don't have the resources. They don't have the connections sometimes with the right folks. And so if you don't have anywhere to go at that point in life, you think that, I'm free. I'm 18. That's what the world says. The world says I turn 18. I'm an adult. I'm free to do what I want. Well, in some ways you're right, but at the same time, you've still got to have those connections and those resources in order to make sure that you have the things that you need. So it's a good opportunity for us to serve in that capacity as well.
So that's awesome. So is that a thing where if they graduate, even if they're at children's home in Spring Hill, when they hit 18, that's the next step for some of them?
Sometimes that happens. We do transition kids from our programs into independent living. And we also, kids come from other programs or other foster situations at 18 and come into our program to try to, really want to encourage them to get some kind of education. They don't have to do that, but we want to encourage them to get some kind of education. So we try to push them into some kind of school, tech school, something of that nature, but at least a job.
Yeah.
And so we have our apartments in a location that's good where they can walk to jobs. They can catch the bus pretty easily to a job, and then they get on their feet. And then hopefully we've had several kids start that program and then save up money and they buy their own car. And so it's just really cool to see some of those opportunities work out for them.
Yeah, that is awesome. Well, and just areas that if you haven't been in that situation before, you might not have had to think in those ways. And I would just think maybe even a lot of people listening, if they haven't been in that situation, the reality of, well, what happens when you age out and what happens when you go to these places? So I know one of your roles, obviously, as you mentioned, was educating people about the children's homes. Just thinking about those of us who live in the area, I know we've touched on a lot. Is there anything else that you say, I wish more people knew about this, or, some things we should keep in mind?
Yeah, one of the things we want to kind of harp on is kind of one of our long-term goals that we've talked about recently is we want members of the church to be able to get hands-on with us. We appreciate the donations and we need those. We don't need those to stop, but there's a lot of people who want to get involved in a hands-on way, and you can do that, without having to become an employee, and you can volunteer in such a way where you can start developing relationships with these kids who may not have somewhere to go, if you will. And so, we've had some folks recently. We've tried to develop this more recently, and so one of the things that some folks have done is on weekends when visitation happens, so families get to come visit the kids on the weekends, but only about 30% of our kids get visits. And so there's other kids who don't have that. And so they've come in at that time and started spending some time with the kids who aren't getting visits, starting to develop those relationships. And sometimes that may turn into hey, when you turn 18, maybe there's an opportunity for us to connect and we can help you out. So there are ways to get involved, hands-on. And we love it when church groups come in and, they'll do like a pizza and game night. So we'll get the kids up to the gym and play some dodgeball or play something in the gym, and then feed them pizza. Gives the house parents a break from having to cook that evening, but it also just allows people of the church, members of the church, to just see what it is they're supporting. Because a lot of the churches that we that come are ones that support us, and they just get to get their hands on with our work.
Yeah, and just the ability to do that does leave an impression. I can remember growing up, I think it was Thanksgiving, when our youth group would load up for a Thanksgiving meal at some point earlier in the week, drive over to the West Tennessee campus and do things. And I have really vivid memories of that, and so those kinds of moments do stick with people.
Yeah, and I can tell you those moments stick with the kids too. We have kids come back years later and talk about the impacts that were made while they were here. And they'll say, I remember this church came and they just fed us all. they remember those type of things.
Yeah.
And those things it's amazing what sticks with them and what doesn't, but it just comes back to those connections. They'll oftentimes make a connection, and that's what sticks with them.
Yeah.
They don't remember the fact that they got here and treated us, pretty badly because of their situation, unfairly a lot of times, but we were able to handle that.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't remember that kind
Right.
of stuff. But they remember the connections that were made on a positive way.
Yeah. Which is kind of the natural growing up anyway. Our memories of our childhoods growing up, we don't always remember how hard a time we might have given somebody,
Right.
but we can remember how they responded. And so you've got that opportunity to respond in that way. That's so powerful. Just as we think about that, and as we think about ministry, what kinds of, you've mentioned some opportunities, and obviously there's the element of financial donations that are helpful, but are there any other ways people can get involved, events, things to highlight you have coming up?
Yeah, we try to keep some events along the way to just make sure that the community is aware of what we're doing and that we're here and that we're serving kids. The biggest kind of things that we do, we have golf tournaments and runs. And so we have a golf tournament in Knoxville, I have a golf tournament in Spring Hill, and I have a golf tournament in West Tennessee in Henderson. So 3 of those a year to help, just get involved in that way for fun. Golf for a cause, you can't beat that. And then also we have a couple of run fundraisers, 5Ks and half marathons and things like that. We have one in Knoxville and one in Spring Hill.
Okay.
And then we'll try to have some different benefit dinners and things to just get churches and people who are supporting an opportunity to come and hear updates and learn about what's been going on most recently at the home. And so we're excited about those opportunities to get people on our locations oftentimes, but also just get in front of them and talk with our supporters and thank them.
Awesome. And we'll put in the show notes here a link to the website and some other things if people want to find out more.
Wonderful.
But really appreciate you coming and being with us. And I hope that we've highlighted some things maybe that not everybody knew about, but that is happening here in our own backyard and ministry that's taking place. And so appreciate you spending time with us.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. And again, if that link's on the website, my info is on there. Feel free to reach out if you ever just want to come by and just see a campus, no matter where you are. I know this is going on the web, so somebody could watch this anywhere. And if you're close to any of our campuses, just reach out to me, and we'll see about getting a time for you to come by and visit. We'd love to show you around and just show you what we're doing and how we're making impact for these kids.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being with us. Appreciate you all joining us. I'll do my usual reminder. I'm not quite as good as the YouTubers at saying like and subscribe, but you can subscribe on YouTube and you can watch on Spotify and all of the places that you can find podcasts. We also hope that if you are in the Murray County area and you don't have a church home, we'd love for you to come and to worship with us. Here, you'll receive a warm welcome. We want to find ways we can encourage you. And I'd encourage you to check out the website for the Tennessee Children's Home and just learn more about the work that's going on there. We appreciate you joining us for Connections. Thank you for being part of Connections. We hope it was an encouragement to you. If you live in the Columbia area and don't have a church home, we would love for you to worship with us. You can find out information about meeting times, classes, and what to expect at graymere.com. You will always receive a warm welcome from the Graymere Church of Christ.